Welcome back to Storytime Boulevard, your destination to sleep. I'm Andrew, and as always, I'm so honored to be here with you tonight. Wherever you are right now, I invite you to pause, to settle in, to gently let go. You've made it through another day. Tonight's story is a quiet one, a story about release, about identity, and about one last wish. It's called The Genie's Final Wish. Before we begin, let's take a moment to settle in. Inhale slowly through the nose, hold, and exhale gently through the mouth. Once more, in, hold, and out. As you breathe, imagine the wind of a warm desert evening brushing against your skin. It carries no sound but peace. It brings no message but rest. With every breath, allow your shoulders to drop. Let the muscles in your face soften. Let your thoughts drift like sand across the dunes. Now, let's begin. The Genie's Final Wish. In the vast hush of the desert, where the sands stretched like golden oceans and the stars stitched stories across the night, something long forgotten stirred beneath the dunes. It had been centuries since anyone last touched the old lamp. Not a finger had brushed its metal. Not a whisper had summoned its spark. It rested beneath layers of time, buried by the winds, cradled by the earth. And yet, tonight, it hummed, a soft pulsing warmth like a heartbeat, not loud, not urgent, but present. Like the feeling of someone thinking about you from far away. Far across the world, where no map dared to draw, there existed a place outside of time, a realm of soft colors and deep stillness. This was where the genie had wandered. He did not live in palaces anymore. No golden chains, no velvet cushions. He preferred open skies and quiet places, salt-crusted shores where the wind spoke in lullabies, forests of blue leaves that shimmered in moonlight, caverns lit by fireflies that remembered old wishes. He was not sad, at least not in the way humans understood sadness. But there was an emptiness in him, shaped like a question, a small space that no longer filled with commands or magic or someone else's dreams. Tonight, as he sat on the edge of a sky pool, a lake so still it reflected not the clouds above, but dreams left behind. He felt it, the lamp. It was calling, not demanding, not pulling, just inviting. He closed his eyes. His form shimmered faintly, as if even his body remembered being smoke. His fingers brushed the surface of the water, sending ripples that looked like ancient script. He stood. He didn't ask where he was going. He simply followed the call, the soft hum beneath the stars, like a forgotten melody only he could hear. And as he stepped through a curtain of starlight, the desert welcomed him home. The genie did not walk through the desert. He glided, like wind might if it remembered being human. His feet left no mark, and the sands seemed to part gently before him, not out of fear, but in recognition. The desert remembered him, even if the world no longer did. Above, the stars blinked slowly, lazily, as if drifting in and out of sleep. The moon hung low on the horizon, heavy with silver and silence. Somewhere in the distance, dunes rose and fell like ancient breath. He paused near a dune shaped like a sleeping lion and sat cross-legged on the cool sand. The wind curled around him, not cold, not warm, just familiar, like the touch of an old friend who never asked why you'd been away so long. He closed his eyes. He didn't need to breathe. Not really, but he did it anyway. Inhale, exhale, a quiet ritual of grounding, a way to remember the shape of life, even if he no longer lived it in quite the same way. In his mind, the past began to stir, like smoke rising from a long extinguished flame. He remembered laughter, Aladdin's voice echoing in the caverns, Jasmine's strength, wrapped in softness. He remembered the sound of his own magic, a vibrant, crackling burst of joy and mischief. A showman, a servant, a spectacle. And then he remembered silence. The moment after his final wish had been granted. He had waited for applause, for some grand unlocking of a new chapter. But freedom, real freedom, came not with a roar, but with stillness. He had wandered far in the centuries since. He had visited sky temples where monks meditated in suspended time. He had listened to whales that spoke only in dreams. He had danced with storms. He had laughed with living shadows. He had even tried solitude, but found that silence could be too loud when there was no one to share it with. And still, the question lingered. What now? Who was he, without someone else's wish to grant, without a master, without a purpose? He did not know. He had never had the space to find out. Now, seated once more in the golden cradle of the desert, where his story had once begun, he felt the weight of it all, pressing gently, not as a burden, but as a quiet truth. His hand drifted to his chest. He felt something there, something soft, something steady, a pulse. It was not a heartbeat, at least not in the human sense, but it was real, and it was his. He smiled, faintly. A soul made of smoke, yes, but a soul all the same. Then on the breeze it came again, a hum, a whisper, the soft shimmer of magic remembering its source. The lamp was calling, not with desperation, not with urgency, but with something gentler, like an old song returning to memory, like the sound of someone saying your name, not to summon you, but to welcome you home. The genie stood slowly, his form flickering faintly with ancient light, and as the sands sighed beneath him, he began to walk again, towards something old, towards something new, toward the final chapter he hadn't known he'd been waiting to write. The desert stretched on like a golden eternity, but the genie knew the way. He was not guided by stars or maps or signs, but by something quieter, an instinct, like the feeling of being watched by a memory. It tugged at him gently, not with urgency, but with trust. After many hours, or perhaps no hours at all, for time behaved strangely in this part of the world, he arrived at the edge of something impossible. A small oasis shimmered into view. It had not been there moments before, and yet it had always been there, hidden, waiting, protected by the sands and the silence. The genie stepped into the oasis, and the air changed, cooler, still, the kind of stillness that held stories in its breath. A crescent-shaped pool rested at its center, clear as glass, its surface untouched by wind or falling leaf. The water glowed faintly with a pale blue light, like starlight melted into liquid. Around the pool grew wild blossoms, none alike, and none from any world he remembered. Their petals shimmered with iridescent hues. Some flickered like candle flames. Others pulsed like heartbeats. A few hovered just above the soil, never quite touching the ground. He approached one gently. It bloomed in slow motion, as if it had been waiting for him. Inside the petals, he saw it, a vision, soft and flickering, a child, once, long ago, whispering a wish into cupped hands before blowing them into the wind. The wish was small, to see my father smile again. But it had never reached the lamp. It had drifted, unanswered, unheard, until now. The genie wandered deeper into the oasis, watching as more blossoms opened in his presence. A woman's wish for one more sunset beside someone she lost. A merchant's quiet hope to forgive himself. A lonely boy's dream of being brave just once. Not all wishes were grand. Most were not for riches or kingdoms or fame. They were simple, human, beautiful in their smallness. And here, in this hidden garden, they had taken root, not forgotten, but transformed. He knelt beside a tall silver bloom that hummed like a lullaby. In its center, he saw a flicker of his own past, something he didn't expect, a younger version of himself, long before Aladdin, before the jokes, before the showmanship, a flicker of who he had been when he had first been bound to the lamp, back when he had a name. The flower closed softly, as if shy to reveal too much. He placed his palm to the earth. For the first time in centuries, he whispered his own name aloud, and the wind, warm and soft, repeated it back to him, not as an echo, but as a promise. He sat for a long time in the oasis, watching the flowers breathe. Each bloom, a forgotten wish. Each petal, a moment of someone's longing. And all of it, utterly still, utterly sacred. And somewhere, just beneath it all, the lamp pulsed once more, calling, soon. The oasis did not fade with the rising sun. In fact, there was no sun at all, just a sky of pale lavender, where stars lingered like reluctant goodbyes. Time had no authority here. It stretched and folded like silk, moving only when memory moved with it. The genie remained seated by the pool, knees drawn loosely to his chest, his gaze tracing ripples in the water that had not been caused by his hand. Around him, the flowers of forgotten wishes gently swayed, not to any breeze, but to something else, a rhythm, a breath deeper than air. Then from the edge of the dunes, it arrived. The wind. It was not sudden, not loud. It arrived the way sleep arrives, gradual, inevitable, soft. It wound through the trees that circled the oasis, brushing against leaves that didn't rustle so much as sigh. The genie tilted his head. He recognized the feel of it before it spoke, a current from another time, a voice that had spoken to him long ago, though not with words, and now it did. "You've grown quiet," the wind said its voice woven into the rustling fronds, the soft lapping of water, even for someone who once lived in a lamp. The genie didn't answer at first. He closed his eyes, let the wind curl around his face. I've had much to listen to. And now, the genie opened his eyes, looked across the stillness of the oasis. Now I'm starting to understand what I have heard. The wind circled him, not rushing, never rushing. It moved with the patience of eternity. You were always waiting, you know, it said. For what? The moment you would no longer be afraid to choose for yourself. The genie gave a soft laugh, more breath than sound. I granted 1,000 wishes and never once made my own. And yet, the wind whispered, you've always had one. The genie stood, not abruptly, just with purpose. The kind of motion that doesn't start with muscle, but with certainty. He stepped toward the edge of the pool again, watching the reflection ripple beneath his feet. The wind settled behind him, a comforting hush in his ears. You've seen what others long for, it said. Now, what is it you long for? He didn't answer right away. He wasn't sure he had the words, but something within him stirred. Not power, not fame, not even freedom. Something quieter, something like stillness, like silence that was full, not empty, like a dream unburdened by expectation. The wind didn't press. It simply wrapped around him one last time, a gentle embrace. You're ready, it said. And then it was gone. The genie looked down at his reflection, but this time it had changed. He no longer saw a performer, a servant, a myth. He saw someone he had nearly forgotten, himself. And somewhere out there in the waking world, the lamp glowed faintly in the sand, waiting not for a master, but for him, not to be summoned, but to be released. The desert welcomed him with open silence. No storm, no spectacle, only the warm press of the wind and the golden hush of sand stretching to the horizon. He moved slowly, but not with hesitation. Each step brought him closer, not just to the lamp, but to something he had never touched before, an ending of his own. He found it just before dusk. There, nestled in the curve of an ancient dune, half buried in soft sand, the lamp waited. It had dulled over time, no longer golden, but weather-worn, like a relic from a forgotten story. And yet, it pulsed faintly with warmth, a heartbeat in brass, a whisper of what once was. He stood over it for a long while, not as a servant, not as its prisoner, but as an equal, as a friend. With careful hands, He brushed away the sand and lifted the lamp. It was lighter than he remembered. He didn't speak a command. He didn't summon power. Instead, he sat cross-legged once more, holding the lamp in his lap like an old companion. The sky above blushed into twilight, stars blinking softly into place, one by one. The genie closed his eyes. He let the memories come, not of magic, but of moments, of laughter shared, of lives touched, of wishes witnessed, even if unspoken. And beneath it all, the question the wind had asked still lingered. What do you long for? He opened his eyes, and this time he knew. No kingdoms, no immortality, no second chances. Only one thing: peace, not silence, not sleep, but peace, the kind that lives deep inside, where no one else can see, the kind that doesn't need to perform, to serve, or to prove, the kind that simply is. He smiled softly, and for the first time in all his endless existence, he made a wish, his own. The lamp shimmered faintly in his hands, responding not with sparks or fanfare, but with understanding, a quiet glow like a soul exhaling. The sand around him shifted, not with movement, but with stillness. The wind paused, the sky deepened, the world held its breath, then released it, and the genie, the man made of smoke and memory, closed his eyes and dreamed. Night stretched its velvet hands across the desert, wrapping the sands in stillness. The stars above no longer blinked. They glowed, steady and quiet, like the eyes of something ancient watching over the world. The lamp sat untouched now. Its light had dimmed, not in death, but in peace, like a candle allowed to burn to its natural end. No footsteps led away from it. No trace of smoke lingered in the air. And yet, nothing felt gone. Everything felt complete. In a realm unseen by time or distance, beyond the thresholds of waking and dreaming, the genie drifted. Not bound, not lost, not summoned, simply present. He walked through fields of memory that bloomed like moonflowers, petals opening only in the dark, each one a soft echo of a life he'd touched. He sat beside a river that sang lullabies in languages never spoken aloud, letting the current wash through him. He curled beneath a tree whose branches hummed with quiet magic, not the kind that changed the world, but the kind that let it rest. Here, in this realm between stars and story, the genie did not have to be anything. He was not expected to grant. He was not expected to perform. He was not even expected to understand. He simply was, a being shaped by wonder, now wrapped in stillness, a soul made of smoke, finally allowed to breathe. Back in the waking world, the lamp remained, not waiting, not wishing, just resting, like a book closed gently after the final page, and the desert, timeless and golden, held it softly, knowing no one would find it unless they truly needed to, unless they were ready. Some say if you pass through that part of the world on a night when the moon hangs low and the stars hum softly, you might feel something like warmth on the wind, or laughter just out of reach, a sense of magic sleeping, not gone, never gone, just at peace. And so, dear dreamer, the story closes not with an ending, but a quiet beginning of another kind, a place beyond wishes, a place beyond needing, a place where magic finally rests. The end. Thank you for joining us tonight on Storytime Boulevard. We hope the genie's final wish brought a sense of stillness to your heart. A reminder that even the busiest soul deserves rest, that even magic needs a place to lay down and dream. If this story brought you comfort, we'd be so grateful if you liked, commented, or subscribed. Every small gesture helps us grow this peaceful little corner of the world. From all of us here at Storytime Boulevard, may your sleep be deep, your dreams be kind, and your soul always know its way home. Good night, dreamer.